And you go to El Salvador, and this is why I keep telling everybody, get your wealth out of America, guys. If you guys are sitting on a
Yeah.
pile of cash or sitting on 3 homes, sell those homes. Go take what, even if you have to sell them at a $25,000 loss, but you're going to end up with some liquid cash. Who cares? The amount of money that you can make in real estate in El Salvador is so exponential right now. And Bukele is the only president in the world who's come out and literally mocked what's going on in the UK. He's like, oh, that's putting chips in people's hands. He goes, that's literally the mark of the beast. That man is never going to allow that to happen in El Salvador. You want to feel what freedom feels like? You want to know what the American dream felt like? Go to El Salvador. You wake up every day and your life literally gets better. And you know why that is? Because Bukele has eradicated every ounce of corruption down to even the Secretary of State levels in his country, to the point where they are no longer incentivized to be criminals, and they're no longer incentivized to steal or skim from the system, because if you get caught, you're going to prison. Period. It's that simple. So every day, your entire government wakes up with one mission, and that mission is to make life better for the citizens of that country. And you're watching what once was the deadliest country in the world. In 3 years now, they just set the world record
Yeah.
for going 1,000 days without a single homicide. There has never been a country in all of human history that has ever gone 1,000 days without a homicide. There is not a state, there is not a city, there's probably not even a few towns that have gone over 1,000 days without a homicide. And in El Salvador, there has not been a single homicide. And now it's probably going on like 1,030 days at this point. And he did
Yeah.
that.
I mean,
I cut off the
you're
USAID money
broke.
spigot. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah. For the amount of murders, it was like a running joke. Like, absolutely. So my family, my wife is from Ecuador, and like right now they're getting just ravaged by the cartels. And so the new president they have there, he's been there about a year now, but he based his whole campaign on the guy from El Salvador.
Kelly.
So yeah, Bukele, and so I'm praying that they can get some leadway. But I mean, I just it's I don't know how the fuck that guy did it, because it's absolutely incredible. Because I see what the condition Ecuador is in, and I just don't understand how that could be turned around in such a short time like he did.
Because he did it the right way. So when the cartels lashed out, right, they went out on one weekend and they murdered 63 individuals. If you actually go to my Twitter profile and you click on my highlights and you scroll down about 3 or 4 posts in my highlights, you'll see my El Salvador documentary. So if anybody wants to see what this man did and how he did it, yeah, keep scrolling down. I'll tell you another one up there too. Yeah, right there. So what this man has done is, the first thing he did was he built these mega prisons, right? So that was first place you had to put the criminals. Then when he started to arrest some of them and actually try to put them in jail, the court systems were so corrupt that they were just getting basically released back onto the streets. And the cartel said, okay, you want to put a few of us in jail? We're going to send you a message. They went out and they slaughtered 63 innocent civilians in one day. I think it was 127 or 137 in a weekend. So come Monday, including Bukele's sergeant in arms, one of his sons was killed. Okay. So what that did is there was so much public outrage that it was basically like, our government is going to overthrow Congress, or you guys are going to vote with Bukele and give him the opportunity to fix this. So he suspended the Constitution. That gave him the ability to pass a law that said, if you have gang tattoos on your face that show, and you're covered from head to toe, and you have tattoos that show how many people you killed, you're literally bragging about how many people you killed by tattooing on your face, you go to prison. You don't get a trial. You don't get a phone call to call anybody and say goodbye. You don't get to run your shit from inside the jail cells. You're going to prison. You're going to have no contact to the outside world ever for all of eternity. And you're lucky we're not killing you. Then he went through his government. Then he went and cut off the USAID money spigot. So he cut off the USAID's ability to funnel our money into these woke corporations and these NGOs that were then buying off politicians and blackmailing people and bribing people and carrying out hits. These NGOs were the absolute, head of the snake, and would totally cut it off.
Ecuador is just littered with them. They're sending like transgender money all down there, all sorts of fuck shit, dude.
And that's exactly what we do with it, right? Our government sends all of this money, and you got to think, right? So, like, let's use Guatemala, because I was invited to Guatemala by the Attorney General to talk about the child trafficking, right? So I get down to Guatemala, and the Attorney General, like, hey, what did Thelma, the previous Attorney General, make salary? $30,000 a year. Wait, what'd you just say? So we funneled in $796 million into Guatemala in the last 4 years. And you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars in a country where the most powerful law enforcement officer in that country, the Attorney General, would have had a salary of $30,000 a year. And I think it's now like 50 or 60 or 70 or whatever it is now, but it's still pennies. And you talk about George Soros bragging about being able to install any judge or any district attorney in America in these races for $25,000. What do you think they can do in these third world countries for $25,000?
Oh,
I mean, it's insane. So what we
Yeah,
do
I mean,
we go in first with these NGOs, and USAID is just the main, like the head of the snake. And then you'll have like the National Endowment for Democracy, right? So USAID being a government organization, we can FOIA and audit them technically. But once they fund that money to an NGO, there's no paper trail after it goes to that NGO. So that NGO can fund the next NGO that funds the next NGO that commits the crime. And it's almost impossible to tie it back to USAID. But what the National Endowment for Democracy does is they act like the recruiting arm or the staffing arm for the deep state. So they'll put out job postings like, oh, we need a Guatemalan national that's articulate, has a master's degree, has 10,000 followers on TikTok, has 2 local businesses with over 50 employees. Once you meet all of that criteria and you go apply for this job, and the jobs are, they're offering $100,000 a year in a country where you're only making 25,000. So this job comes with a huge financial windfall. So they're attracting the best, if you will. And then once they get you in and you fit that bill, they either bribe you, blackmail you, or you're just corrupt and you're willing to do it for power. And then they take these people and they install them into things like media outlets. So they look for a media company that's failing, that has a big presence and is, not even doesn't have to be respected by the masses. But they go in and they go, hey, we're willing to offer you $100,000 a month to sustain this operation and actually scale it. If you want to double or triple the size of it, we'll bankroll the whole thing. But here's what we're going to do. You're going to give us the ability to pick who's on the 6 p.m., 7 p.m., 8 p.m. primetime slots. And then they go install their puppets in the media. And then they blow up that media organization. Then they use that media organization to install these politicians. And they use it to attack any of the politicians who won't do the bidding of the U.S. So over a 5, 10, 15, most of these countries, USAID has been in there for 60 years. We control every aspect of that government, from the politicians to the judges. And every once in a while, you'll get somebody like a Bukele that tries to run and make a difference. And most of the time, they end up figuring out a way to plant evidence and fabricate lies and put that man in prison before he ever becomes a threat. And we've seen it in Brexit. We've seen it on all these countries in Romania. Every country, basically, the U.S. has been meddling in their government, in their government, in their politics, if you will. So that is the key to this. You have to cut the USAID snake off at the head. You have to at least first thing you should do is be removing all NGOs that are bringing any type of money or aid or anything into the country, or at the very least force it to go through the government, through an organization that you create and you control and is actually going to be delivering that aid and money to the actual citizens if they need it. Like I just got back from Tanzania. I've been to 20 different countries in the last 40 weeks. I've been to Tanzania, I've been to Madagascar, I've been to Thailand, I've been to Honduras, I've been to El Salvador, I've been to Guatemala, I've been to Mexico, and the list goes on and on and on. I went to Tanzania. We given them $20 billion in the last 10 years. And that money was to deliver electricity and clean drinking water to every basically village in Tanzania. I went, 54% of the country doesn't have electricity. 46% don't have access to clean drinking water. 54% don't have access to basically running water. Okay, so the where did all that money go? Billions of dollars and I did the math on it. I could install in Madagascar. I went to go to deliver aid to, I just bought 60 kilos of rice and a bunch of supplies and soap. And I went to take it. I said, I want to go to the poorest village here and I want to go to deliver some aid and supplies because I just wanted to meet and see the people and see what life was like in the poorest areas of one of the poorest countries in the world. And I get out there and they're talking like, yeah, man, these women put these 5-gallon buckets of water on their head and they have to walk 6 kilometers there and back. So it's 3 kilometers each way. And they have to do that 3 times a day just to get enough water to cook, to clean, to bathe the kids, to do all the stuff they need because they don't have running water. And I go, well, how much would a well cost to put in here? And he goes, oh, we can put one in for $250.
What?
And I go, what? What'd you just say?
Oh,
Yeah.
So you could put a well in every village
Wow.
for on average of $250. Let's just say it's even $1,000. There's probably only, let's say even if there's 100,000 villages, you're talking about what, 10 million, $100 million, and we're giving these countries billions. And that's me way overestimating. There's probably only 25,000 villages, right? And it's only $250.
And a lot they buy these votes too. Like in Ecuador, for example, they were giving out flat screen TVs to the the poorest villages just for these people to show up and vote. So that money eventually it came from somewhere, and it was probably an NGO from the U.S. and they bought these fucking TVs to give. And it was wild. We were driving through the poorest part of Ecuador. These people don't even have doors on their houses, but they have the flat screen sitting right in there on their TV. And you're just I'm looking at my wife. I'm like, is that a fucking TV? Are they watching Netflix? So she's like, yeah. Pretty much everyone has them because if you went and voted, they were paying people off with these TVs.
You gotta
just
be shitting me.
cash payments. I mean, also anything you could think of.
Yeah, one of your guys over here on X says Shine Bomb's a puppet of the Jews. Yeah, you have a country like Mexico, which is what 95% Christian nation, and you imagine electing a female
Yeah,
who's
that blew my mind.
Jewish to be the head of your Christian nation. You can't make me believe that shit in a million years.
No, that one blew my mind. I mean, they're such a Christian nation that how the Grok we'd have to run that one through Grok to see what the odds are.
The odds, yeah, no shit, right? And that's
They
how
got to
like
be astronomical.
I have Oscar Ramirez, right? He's my buddy down in Mexico, one of the best journalists
Okay,
I
yeah,
think in the world,
I've
right?
seen him.
Oscar is a
Yeah.
real G, dude. That guy is Bukele potential, right? So what you do is you go into Tijuana and here's how I would do it, right? If you had an organization like USAID and you actually used it for good, what you would do is you'd go in there, you'd send your team of people, of guards, and I'm talking like straight killer Navy SEALs dude to protect Oscar, right? You go through that city and you start buying off everybody. And you just come up to the cartels and you're like, listen, here, we're not going to fuck around. We're going to do it with head-on spikes, or you're either going to work with us, right? If you're not trafficking women and children, I don't care what drugs you're dealing with. We're going to clean this country up, and you can either be with us or you can be against us. Take your pick. And it's either bullets or lead, right? Or what is it? Silver or lead, right? You're either going to work with us or we're going to take you out. And then you go one city at a time. First, you go in Tijuana and you get him as the governor of Tijuana, right? And you could do that in a snap election. You could, basically our government, our CIA has dirt on every one of these politicians in every freaking country. So if they wanted to take out a Mexican politician and leak some stuff and put up and plant some stuff, it's so corrupt. You could easily use your power to remove her from that. You do a snap election, you get somebody like Oscar to take that spot, and you protect him at all cost. You let him clean
At
up
all
Tijuana
costs, dude. The
at all costs.
assassinations are fucking insane in south of the border.
And that's why you have a SEAL Team 6 that's bodyguarding him at all times. Intel at all leads, you deliver whatever military intelligence you need to keep that man alive so that he can run in the next presidential election there. And then you figure out a way to get the people to turn against Shine Bomb, and then you just promote this guy to be a rock star. And that's how you go and carry out these regime changes. Normally it's not as pretty as that, but you basically go, you find your guy that you want, you protect him, you build him up into this larger than life figure, but he has to be a good guy. He has to be one of us. And Oscar is that man that you could literally go into Mexico and you could build up into being the next Bukele. I mean, he is, when it comes to being a straight up Christian, God-fearing, just honest man, they don't get much better than Oscar Ramirez. And that is, I would pick the president of Mexico. You just got to find your guy and you got to protect him and you got to make it look like it's natural. The citizens don't know you're carrying out. Like think about how easy, like we said earlier, it would have been in '95 to carry out one of these psyops. So easy without technology, without what we have, social media. In these countries, they don't have any of this. So when you go in there to carry out these psyops, it's like, America in 1980, if not worse. So it's so easy to carry them out and install politicians. It's just like, it's child's play for our CIA. It's almost laughable to think that any of these other countries actually stand a chance. That's why I think Bukele, they never thought he was going to do it. I don't think anybody thought that he was going to be able to stay alive. There's rumors that he made deals with China.
Staying alive is the biggest part.
Let's keep him alive, I heard. China's going in, and this is what America doesn't understand is I go into Tanzania, and China's going through there, and they're putting in these like Sam's Club like Walmarts in all of these poorest cities, and the citizens freaking love China. I went into Ethiopia, and I'm at the airport.
Same thing in Ecuador.
Yep, I went into Ethiopia, and it's the world's largest airport in Africa was built in Ethiopia. And I go, just out of curiosity, how many people work here? And she goes, 25,000. And she goes, at the very least 25,000. So in the poorest country, Ethiopia is one of literally the poorest countries in the world. China goes in and puts an airport so big that it literally employs 25,000 Ethiopians. So you literally propel 25,000 citizens in the poorest country into like a above middle class living and lifestyle. They loved China. You go into El Salvador, China built a new library, and they didn't just like, hey, we're going to give you money to build a new library. China sent their guys, Chinese people, laborers, bricklayers, and they built this gorgeous, beautiful library for them. Then China put in a $1.1 billion water filtration system because 95% of the water is contaminated in El Salvador because of third world living and just dumping shit into lakes and contamination. And China's got these machines, and they've already filtered, like, I think it's like 40% of the water in El Salvador is now usable. Like, you can actually go swimming in one of these, in the largest lake there because of what China did. China's also helping them build a port that is the size of Singapore in El Salvador. They just put the second international airport on the east side of their state. on the west side of their state, which is now going to be like the hub for, I think it's Honduras or Ecuador, those countries over on that side. And like,
Hmm.
that's what I'm saying. Like, China is going around the world and they're repairing all of the damage that we've done. They're making allies. I can tell you
I
right now.
know they really are, dude. They rebuilt Ecuador's entire road system. It's like when we were driving around, I'm like, these roads are way better than our roads. I'm like, this is crazy. I was expecting dirt roads and stuff the first time I went there, but like, it was incredible what they've done, and but they take advantage of them too. So at the same point, like they do all this illegal fishing off the shores of Ecuador. There's nothing the Ecuadorian government can do, and they're just raping those coastlines for fish and shrimp and all their resources. So at the same time, you're going to be controlled by China then.
Yeah, I
So
know,
this
but
new president's trying to get off the tit of China, but they're in a weird position.
yeah, I know, because you got the United States government trying to force drag queen story hour down your throat, and then you got the Chinese government saying, "Hey, we'll give you all of this and build all this and do all this, but we want our fair share." And you're like,
Yeah.
"Okay, like that, at least that's a fair trade." So where I'm going with this is right now, if like the United States thinks that we're just going to go to war with China and we're going to somehow take on China, I'm telling you right now, out of the 40 or the 20 countries I've been to, 17 of them would raise standing armies that would be willing to go die and fight on behalf of China against the United States. And they wouldn't even think twice about it. I was at a bar in Tanzania, and I'm talking like a bar isn't like a shack shanty type thing that people can go and order some chicken at, and they have warm beer. Um,
Hmm.
they were on one of the TVs there, a football game. No, it was it was the Tanzania military saying that Trump was sending our military over there to do training exercises with them and teach them or share military equipment or whatever the hell we were doing. And the people were sitting at the table next to us, and my friend that was with me, they speak a different language, so I didn't hear it, but overheard them, and she's like, "Oh, those people over there are saying that Trump won't even let us go. He doesn't want even let Tanzanians go into his country and get a visa to go visit as a tourist. So why the hell do we want the Americans here in our country?" I
Yeah,
go,
I
"Yeah,
think Americans that don't leave the country or travel outside the country are really out of touch of where we're at as a whole. How the rest of the world perceives us.
Yeah, we're the world's terrorist organization. There's no other way to put it, right? The United States government is the world's terrorist organization. We've been destroying the world. We've been raping, looting, and pillaging these villages and these countries for their natural resources. We've been interfering with their politics. The best thing that any country could do on behalf of their citizens is kick the United States government the hell out of their gosh damn country and then secure their borders. I would go round up any US citizen that had any type of US passport. They're gone. I wouldn't even think twice about it. If you've been there and you've been paying taxes and you're just a nobody, sure, right? But if there's even a sniff of you being any type of intelligence agency, if you were involved in organizing any protest or connected to these NGOs in any way, shape, or form, you got to go. You got to go. If any business or organization brought foreigners in on visas, they would all be going too. And I would eradicate it and I would turn my country into the next El Salvador. You could take any country, I'm telling you, any country in 5 to 10 years and turn it into Dubai with the right politicians. Any country. Our America, the amount of money that we give our government, 53% of every penny we make is literally taken in taxes. People are like, "Oh, bro, I only pay 30% of my paycheck." Dude, look at your electric bill. Look at your cable bill. You're going to see an EPA surcharge or a this charge or a that charge. Those are going to our government. That is a tax. It just doesn't say payroll tax on it. Get
Yeah.
sales tax, your gas tax, your income tax, your property tax, your death tax. Every penny you make, you are giving the government 53% of at the end of the day if you're a 9 to 5 worker.
Yeah.
Brutal.
Yeah, man. NGOs, man, you were the first one to kind of break that open. I feel like I didn't really understand that whole world of where our money was going and how it was getting funneled out. And yeah, you were the. When did you do that documentary?
That was I got to give a lot of credit to Mike Benz, man. Mike Benz was the one who really opened my eyes and got me looking at the NGOs. But he articulates it in such a good professional way where I'm just like, dude, these guys are money laundering, child trafficking, human trafficking scumbags, and they built these organizations that are supposed to aid and help children, and they've literally been designed to do cover up the trafficking of children. Every single one of them. They're all involved in corruption. They're all money laundering. Every foundation, the Clinton Foundation, the Gates Foundation, the Soros Foundation, the Open Societies Foundation, every foundation is a gosh damn terrorist organization, money laundering, They're corrupt. They're rotted to the core, and they should be eradicated. We shouldn't tolerate this as American citizens. This is America. And like I think we forget in this, and our government is terrified on how quickly we can remind them that they work for us, right? And our life at the rate we're going, we don't have a future for our children. So we either get our shit together right now, real quick, or we ain't gonna have a country. And if COVID didn't tell you that people are just gonna comply and put their heads in the sand and shut up and take orders, then I don't know what you were doing over the last 4 years. So that's why I'm advocating, guys, get your wealth out of this gosh damn country. At the very least, have a second piece of real estate in El Salvador. It's like hitting the lottery. So you could buy anything. You buy an acre of land for like $15,000 up in the mountains. You can't even get to it without a 4-wheel drive truck. But 2 years from now, 4 years from now, I guarantee you that $15,000 piece of real estate is probably going to be worth close to 100,000, 500,000. I mean, it's going to be worth big time money. So you can choose to build there. You can not choose to build there. I would at the very least be acquiring some real estate there while it's still dirt cheap and you can still afford to get it. You get some wealth out of America, and then worst case scenario happens, you can get out.
Place to go, yeah.